Welcome to a lecture about differences between MLA and APA format. Both of these are ways to indicate where and when you have used research. They just differ in how you record this information. If you took Comp 1 at Prairie View or pretty much anywhere, odds are you used MLA for your research for your paper format. Here at Prairie View, we use APA for English 1133, and there is a good reason for that. MLA and APA are the most popular citation formats on campus, and so we want to make sure you're exposed to both so you can switch back and forth between them if you need to. One of the nice things about any citation is there are things that remain the same. So if you started to get the hang of MLA and Comp 1, rest assured, you still have to give credit to all outside sources. Whether you have things in quotation marks, whether you've rewritten the quote, you've really digested it and you're putting it in your own words, you're paraphrasing, you still have to give credit. All citation systems have some form of in-text citation, a footnote, a parenthetic reference, and there's a list of all your sources at the end, a bibliography. For both MLA and APA, your in-text citations go in parentheses. So that's one thing you don't have to worry about. You're still doing parentheses everywhere. Your sources at the end go in alphabetical order. That's still the same. And your bibliography at the end is double-spaced. If your entry is more than one line long, you still indent. It's going to look, as you stand back from your computer screen or the page, a lot the same. But of course, there are differences. So I'm going to go through what you would do in MLA, just sort of to refresh your memory, and then show you what's different about APA. So if I were doing an in-text citation in MLA format for a source that has one author, it would look like this. I would use the author's last name, here I've got Smith, and then I put the page number, 75. This is shorthand. I don't want to interrupt the flow of reading. I just want to give my reader enough information that he can flip or scroll to the end, find Smith, and if he's really interested, go pull the book himself and look at page 75. So what's different if I have more than one author for my source? Well, MLA just wants me to put both of them with the word and still keep my page number over here. What do I do if I'm doing APA citation? APA, since it's used primarily in the social sciences, APA is the citation system used in psychology, most definitely. Because it is social sciences, when your source was written, how old it is, how recent it is very important. So you'll notice that your citation gets a little bit longer in APA. I still have the author's last name, that's still how I start. But now I add a comma and I insert the year of publication, another comma, and then I put a P period space before my page number. So APA wants even more information and there's even more formatting going on. You've got these commas, you've got a P, you've got a period. What do I do if I have more than one author? Pretty much the same idea as MLA. You want both authors' names in here. And the reason I'm giving this example is because APA wants this curly and sign, it's called an ampersand, instead of the word and. So it's just a tiny little formatting difference. Everything else is the same, comma, year of publication, comma, P period, page number. So, I have the option of putting my author's name in the sentence. It's a great way to use an attributive tag or to integrate or to incorporate my quote or paraphrase. With MLA, if I pull my author's last name out, the only thing that's left for my parentheses is the page number. What's going to happen when I move to APA? Best rule of thumb I can give you for APA is wherever the author goes, so goes the date. I pulled my author's last name out of the parentheses at the end, and guess what? My year has to go with it in parentheses. So yes, now I have two sets of parentheses in my sentence. I pulled my name out, the year goes with us right there in the middle of the sentence, and then the only thing left in the parentheses at the end, just like in MLA, is the page number, except I have to put a P and a period. So here's all my information again, the three parts of an APA in-text citation and where they would go if you put the author's name in the sentence. Now I'm going to talk a little bit about your reference format. You have links and handouts in e-courses to help you figure out how to format absolutely any source. I can't anticipate what you're going to come up with. There's no way I can go over everything. It would be very boring in a very long video. So I'm just going to go over three main types of sources that you might encounter, starting with books. So this is the general format. You start with the last name. Nothing's changed from MLA there. And now here's the first change in format. You only used first initials. You only use middle initials. Mary becomes M. Joseph becomes J. And my rule still holds. Wherever the author is, there's the year. So I put a period, parentheses, my year of publication, another period. I put the title of the book in italics. And notice that the B here is not capitalized. That's because APA follows different capitalization rules than MLA does. And then I have the city of publication and the publisher, just like I would with MLA. So here's how an example would look. I made up this book and this press. Please don't go looking for it or come complaining that you couldn't find it. It's fictional. So here's first initial, period. There's my publication year in parentheses, period. And here's my title in italics, Finishing College, lowercase c, colon, and then I have a capital A, small g guide. These are the rules for capitalization in APA. You capitalize the first letter of the first word in the title, the first letter of the first word after any colon. You would capitalize any proper nouns. So if my title had Houston in it, I would capitalize the H in Houston. I would capitalize the P in Prairie. I would capitalize the G in George Washington. So any proper nouns. And then city of publication, Houston, and here's my publisher, period. This is all the same information that you would find in an MLA citation for a book. It's just moved around a little bit. MLA would have my year at the end. APA wants it right up here with the author. I only use first initials. My capitalization is different. I'm assuming that a lot of you are going to rely on web pages for some of the research you're doing, and that's fine with me. Research requirements are spelled out very clearly. I do not forbid web pages. Here's what you need to cite a web page in APA. An author, remember we still got first initial, and then a really funky date format. I start with the year because that's the most important, and then I put the month and the day if this information is available. Because think about it, a lot of web pages are published or updated on a very specific day. You do not have to include the time. I know a lot of newspaper articles include, 3:21 p.m. You don't have to. You put the title of your web page, not in quotation marks. Your title of the website gets italics, and then you put retrieved from the full HTTP address, your complete URL. And notice there's no period at the end here. So what would this look like? Again, I made this up. Here's an example. I have an author. This page was published on March 2nd, 2012, and this is how I'd format the date. period. The title of the web page is Death of the Author. Notice that the A is not capitalized. It's not a proper noun. Here's the title of my website. The D is not capitalized. And then I have retrieved from a completely made up URL, no period at the end. Remember what I said about research requirements? I am going to require you to use information from databases, scholarly journals, because part of my hope for English 1133 is that you start getting used to how experts talk in your field. Now, this kind of research can be at a very high level, it can be very hard to understand, or it can be really easy. You can pull out the information you need. Here's how to cite a journal article that you find not in a journal, a print journal on a shelf, but in a library database. There's a lot of information you need. It's pretty much the same as MLA with one exception. APA doesn't care when you access this information. They just want to know where you got it. Again, we're at last name and first initial. The year is still number 2. You'd put the title of your article, just like you would the title of a web page. It does not go in quotation marks. Then you put the title of your journal. Yes, I know, the J is capitalized. Don't ask. This is just the rule. A comma, the volume number, still in italics, then a parentheses, the issue number, non-italics, parentheses, comma, your page range. And then you put what database did you get it from. Here's how it might look. I'm using Patricia Jones' article, Global Water Quality. Patricia gets shortened to P, just her first initial. Global Water Quality, lowercase w, lowercase q. Environmental Journal, notice the J is capitalized. We've got italics through the journal title and the volume. The issue converts to regular format, comma, the page that the article starts on, dash, the page that it ends on. And then I put retrieved from, again, I made this up, but I did not make up the database, EBSCOhost. And what's this here at the end? A period. If you're doing an APA reference entry for a web page, you don't end with a period, no period. If you're doing an APA reference entry for a journal or a newspaper article from a database, you do end with a period. Now these are all little picky things. I don't expect them to be perfect on paper 1 or your first set of discussions or pre-writing. I expect you to get better at it by the end of the course. So to recap, here are some basic differences between MLA and APA. We're going to be talking about APA format the entire course. Don't worry, this is not the only time you're going to learn about it. An APA bibliography is not a works cited. It's called references. You still center the title at the top of your bibliography page. APA, as I've said repeatedly, only uses initials for first and middle names. The publication date goes right after the author, whether we're in the in-text citation, whether we pull the author out of the parentheses, whether we're talking about the references, it's always author, year, author, year. They are married, and they're very fond of each other because they go everywhere together. APA also has different capitalization rules. You capitalize the first letter, the first word after a colon, or proper nouns. Now again, there's a lot of resources for you in e-courses, including links to citation generators, but I always recommend that you have some sort of ground level fundamental understanding of how format is supposed to look, so when you use a citation generator, you can eyeball it and say, hey, yeah, that looks right, because you don't want to turn in something that's full of errors, especially at the end of English 1133. So, deep breaths, try to do this. I would rather that you try to do APA citation and made a mess of it than you didn't even try at all. Because trying we can work with.